Hi, I'm Jordan Card, training manager at Big Brothers Big Sisters of New York City. And today I'm going to go through some best practices for being on Zoom. So first, let's start out by looking at the bar at the bottom of your screen. You'll see two buttons on the left. You'll see a mute button and a stop video button. So these are your audio and video controls. If you hit the mute button, you can't hear me. You can hear me now because I'm recording my screen, but to unmute, click it, and then everyone else on the call can hear you. The stop video button controls your video feed in Zoom. So if you click that, that will pause your video and no one can see you. So click it again to show your video again. So these two little arrows next to each button help you control your audio and video. If for some reason you're not picking up sound, you can click this button and check to make sure that a microphone is selected. You can also play around with your audio settings to make sure that it's set up. This is the same with the stop video button. So if you hit this little arrow, it'll allow you to select a camera that's built into your computer or an external camera if you have one, and then you can play around with your video settings if that's still not working. We'll talk about a couple of other buttons later on. So before you start thinking about your Zoom call and you're planning for it, you want to make sure that you're really capitalizing on your internet bandwidth. An easy way to do this is to disable the Wi-Fi on other devices that you have in your home. So this can include turning Wi-Fi off of cell phones, tablets, computers. It could also be helpful to ask other folks that you share a home with to not use Wi-Fi while you're on the call. This can just help ensure that the quality of your video and audio is really good and helpful for the call. You also want to be mindful of what microphone you're using. So I'm using old school Apple headphones that have the actual headphone jack plugged into my computer. Sometimes folks use AirPods, and what I found is that when folks are using AirPods, it's almost like there's a piece of fabric coming in between them and their microphone. I've also had folks just use the microphone that's built into their computer without any headphones at all, and it sounds great. So what I would encourage you to do is to find a audio recording app on your computer and record yourself speaking a few times and see how the best quality of sound can be recorded, whether that's with headphones, without headphones, and more. You also want to be really intentional with your mute button. When someone is speaking on Zoom, Zoom picks up their sound and makes their video feed full screen on the window. So right now, I'm speaking and you see my camera. Now, if someone else was speaking and their face was on the camera and maybe I cough or there's some other background noise where I'm at and I don't have my mute on, Zoom will think that I'm trying to speak, and then all of a sudden you'll get like a flash of me coughing and then it'll disappear, which can be kind of distracting for other folks on the call. So I know this kind of goes without saying, but make sure that your microphone is always muted. You also want to think about your appearance on Zoom. So you don't need to be full professional, but as you can see, I'm wearing just a navy blue t-shirt. You want to avoid things like tank tops, sleeveless shirts, tops with really loud logos on them, or things with holes that are torn. But again, you don't need to have a full professional appearance. You also want to pay attention to what your background is. Now, if I have my computer turned, you could see the rest of the place where I'm at, and there could be people walking around, there could be a TV on, pets even, and those things can be pretty distracting for folks who are watching the Zoom call. So I chose to sit at an angled wall, and I have half the wall painted. It's also fine to have things like appropriate art or wall decor or things on your wall. It can look nice. You just want to make sure that it's not really distracting. You also want to make sure that you're comfortable on camera. So right now I have my computer about half an arm's length away, and I can rest my hands on the table that I'm sitting at. And this helps just to give me a feel like I'm actually having a conversation with folks. My body's a little bit more relaxed and I feel a little bit more confident speaking. You also want to make sure that you're giving yourself time to practice ahead of time. And this does include testing your microphone, testing your sound. You also want to practice how you're appearing on camera. So I'm sitting in front of a window where a lot of natural light is facing me. If I was sitting in a space or a time of day where the light is coming behind me, backlighting tends to make your face kind of disappear. So you want to make sure that wherever you're sitting has good light, depending on the time of day. It might be better to sit someplace if it's night with a lamp in front of you, or if it's during the daytime facing a window. You also kind of want to think through, if it's a recorded webinar, what you want to say, and practice and film yourself and see how you look and sound. And everybody hates seeing themselves on camera. It does get easier the more you do it, and it gives you a chance to give yourself feedback and make sure that you're looking and sounding exactly how you want to during the Zoom call. While you're on the Zoom call, trust that the facilitator will help guide the conversation, but it can be helpful to use the hand raising feature. And the hand raising feature can be found by going down to that bar on the bottom of your Zoom window, clicking the participants button, and a window will pop up. And on this window, you will see a bunch of other participants during the call. Right now, it's just me. And these buttons down on the bottom of this window that say yes, no, go slower, go faster, are buttons that send a message to the facilitator. Once other folks are on the call, you'll see a button that says raise hand. And if you click that button, the facilitator will see that you have your hand raised and they can call on you to speak up or answer a question or make a comment. Don't worry too much about this. While you're speaking, it's helpful to speak a little bit slower than you normally would, making sure that you sound really clear. I naturally speak really fast in person when I'm being casual, and I try to slow down my speech and give intentional pauses as much as possible. So that's a brief overview of Zoom best practices. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us so we can help. Thanks.